Victor, the original vampire, stood amidst the graveyard, his newly resurrected army of the undead standing silently behind him. He felt the power of the sanguine orb pulsating within him, strengthening him. He looked at the rogue vampire who had awakened him with a nod of acknowledgement. Back in Veilcrest, Peter and Anastasia were struggling to understand the surge of power they had felt. They couldn't pinpoint the source, but they knew it was potent and ominous. Despite their recent alliance, the tension between them was palpable. Their unity had been a matter of necessity, not choice. As they journeyed towards the source of the power surge, they were unaware of the imminent danger they were walking into. The Council's castle, once their seat of power, now lay in ruins after the rebellion. The castle grounds were eerily silent as they made their way towards the ancient graveyard at the back. The sight that greeted them was beyond anything they could have imagined. Victor, the first vampire, stood at the center of an army of undead vampires. The very thought was inconceivable. Victor had been dead for centuries. Yet, there he was, radiating an aura of ancient and dark power. Peter felt a chill run down his spine as Victor turned his gaze towards them. His eyes glowed with an eerie light, and Peter could feel the immense power behind that gaze. Beside him, Anastasia stiffened, her face pale. Victor raised his hand, and the undead army moved forward. With a swift motion, Peter and Anastasia sprang into action, their previous disagreements forgotten in the face of this new threat. The battle that ensued was brutal. Anastasia and Peter, despite being powerful vampires, were outnumbered and outmatched. The undead army seemed to feel no pain, their wounds healing almost instantly. In the midst of the battle, Peter found himself face to face with the rogue vampire who had started it all. They clashed, their fangs bared and claws extended. After a fierce fight, Peter managed to defeat him, but it did little to turn the tide of the battle. Anastasia, on the other hand, was struggling against the onslaught of the undead. She fought fiercely, but the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. Peter saw her fall and rushed to her aid, fighting off the undead surrounding her. Back to back, they continued to fight, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. Just as they were beginning to lose hope, a group of rebel vampires led by Adrian arrived, joining the fight against Victor's undead army. Despite the reinforcements, the battle was far from won. Victor, now free from the distraction of his army, turned his attention to Peter and Anastasia. His gaze was cold as he advanced towards them, the sanguine orb's power radiating off him. Recognizing their disadvantage, Peter made the difficult call to retreat. The rebel vampires, battered and bruised, fell back, escaping into the maze of tunnels beneath Veilcrest. Victor watched them go, a sinister smile playing on his lips. In the hidden sanctuary beneath Veilcrest, the vampires nursed their wounds and mourned their losses. The reality of their situation was grim. Victor and his undead army were powerful, seemingly invincible. Peter, Anastasia, and Adrian convened in the council chamber, trying to devise a plan. The ancient texts spoke of Victor as the progenitor, the first of their kind, but offered no insight into his potential weaknesses. As the days passed, the atmosphere in Veilcrest grew more tense. Victor's undead army roamed the streets at night, making it impossible for the rebels to venture out. They were effectively trapped in their own city, the threat of Victor's impending attack hanging over their heads. Anastasia suggested seeking help from the witches of the Wraithwood, a dangerous but potentially fruitful gamble. They were known for their ancient knowledge of magical artifacts, and if anyone knew how to counter the sanguine orb's power, it would be them. Peter was hesitant, aware of the long-standing animosity between the witches and vampires. But with their options dwindling and time running out, he agreed to the plan. Along with Anastasia and Adrian, he set out on the perilous journey to the Wraithwood, leaving Veilcrest and its fate in the hands of the remaining rebel vampires. As they ventured into the unknown, they couldn't shake off the feeling of Victor's gaze on them. Little did they know, the real danger was yet to come, and their journey to the Wraithwood was just the beginning of their fight against Victor.